Hola mi gente, MsMalcolmHughes back with another book review, and today I'm going to be talking about The Alchemist by Michael Scott. This is not to be confused with The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. So The Alchemist is a fantasy novel which focuses on the infamous Nicholas Flamel. And if you're like me and you weren't aware of the fact that Nicholas Flamel was a real person, then this book will be a good introductory source for you. So the book actually follows Nicholas Flamel on his journey along with his wife Perenelle of protecting a sacred book, the Book of Abraham, which has many secrets, one of which includes the elixir of life. So like me, when I first heard this book, I was like, Nicholas Flamel, I immediately thought of Harry Potter, but different. Though it does have the elixir of life, the Philosopher's Stone, and all of that, it is completely different. And again, Nicholas Flamel was actually a real individual, and legend has it that he and his wife really had this book, discovered secrets of life, discovered alchemy, how to turn different materials into gold. They had tons of money. They went away for years and they came back and were extremely wealthy. And when they died, because that's the theory, when they died, their graves are empty. So the rumor is that they fake their deaths and they have the elixir of life and that they're still alive and that they're out there somewhere, and there have been rumored spottings over time. So with that background, we go into this book. So here we have some folks who are after the book because they want to bring back the Dark Elders, the elder race which at one point in time ruled the land, and humans were subjugated and killed and a lot of other things. So Nicholas Flamel and Perenelle have been guarding this text so that that doesn't happen. However, things get tricky because we get introduced to Josh and his twin sister Sophie, and they just so happen, nothing is coincidence if you believe in fate, so they just so happen to work across the street from each other. Well, Sophie works in the coffee shop and Josh works across the street in the bookstore with Nicholas Flamel, and they are both at work when the attacks happen, when the bad guys come to attack and retrieve the book. And for Flamel, in those moments, he immediately realizes that these are twins from a prophecy from many years ago. The bad guys get everything. They get the book from Flamel, except for two pages that Josh actually snatches out. So we go on this journey. They kidnap Perenelle. Flamel and the twins manage to escape. So that's where we go. We go on this journey. We encounter other individuals of them trying to stay alive, figure out how to get Perenelle back, figure out how to stop the bad guys from getting the book so that they can save the world and not let the world go into chaos. And the twins are a part of the prophecy that says one of them has the power to save the world, one of them has the power to destroy the world. And one thing that the twins learn and we learn as readers is that every individual has an aura, and that aura tells what type of special powers and gifts they have. And we have like heightened senses, and that this is something that humans have strayed away from over time, and we don't really know how to tap into it anymore, and it's not really awakened. So that was really interesting, that aspect of it. I thought it was really cool that every human has this potential that's not tapped into, and it usually has to happen in childhood, because if it happens in adulthood then it overwhelms you as too much because you've been shut out from it for so long. So I thought that was really unique aspect of a play on magic, and Flamel breaks it down. So like, even though we would consider it magic, it's really tapping into nature, and it's really tapping into our senses, and it's tapping into things that are innately within us, and science, and understanding different equations and understanding like methodologies. So I thought that was really, really cool, because I like when things are broken down in such a way that it doesn't seem abstract and unreal, but it's actually like, this is possible. And I had a really cool experience like that when going on different tours in Louisiana and New Orleans. And you talk about like different histories, and it's like, well, what they called this was actually this, and when they talk about potions, this is what people actually put together. So I always find that type of information really enlightening. And I think that's one of the things I appreciate about this book, is that even though you are on this fantastical adventure, it does feel as if all of this, though not possible, is seeped with history, and I love historical fiction, so that's something I really enjoyed about this book. I think another thing for me is that I often forget that I like fantasy because I don't read it often until I'm reading it, and then it really just sucks you in and you're transported to another world when it's done well and when it's done right. And I think this is a piece of work that was done well, and it's really good and it draws you in. Scott has created this alternate reality, this world, and you really become invested. You want to know what happens to the characters. Will they make it? When I was getting toward the end of this book, I immediately ordered the second one, so it was really good in that sense because it takes you on a journey. It has its challenges. It has all of those key pieces that you need. It has enough of invention for you to feel as if you're learning something new. However, I will say one aspect that kind of disappointed me about the book is that all of the characters are characters that we know, and I know it's because it's based in reality, but sometimes that was just a little, I wanted a different twist and turn. So if you're into fantasy or mythology, we have the Morrigan, we have Saket, we have we have a Sphinx. So we have different characters that we've seen throughout history, and though their experiences within this realm that has been created are a little different, the characters themselves are not. So in one sense that's cool because you're learning about history, in another sense it's a little predictable, which sometimes just makes it a little less exciting, just a little less exciting. But overall, I would say I enjoyed the book. I would say Scott is a good writer. This book is not one that you can read and put down and pick up another book and come back to it. At least I didn't enjoy it as much as when I was doing that. I found that this is one book that you would want to read straight through, because tapping out of this world and then going to another and then trying to come back in, you're kind of like, wait, what happened? And you have to reacclimate yourself. So I think that this book, when I read it straight through, was actually a much better read. So I would recommend that. But overall, not much to say here. I think it was a solid first effort. I enjoyed the read. I do think that sometimes the uniqueness wasn't there with some of the characters. There wasn't a huge flaw for the book. I just wanted something different with some of the mythical characters. I wanted new inventions. I wanted some creativity. However, there was one huge flaw for me, and that's the fact that Perenelle and Nicholas are slowly dying because they don't have the elixir of life. They no longer have the book. They can't make the elixir of life. Now, riddle me this, because I may be being, in this moment I may be too, because I may be too logical in this train of thought. However, the fact that Perenelle and Nicholas have had this book with this formula for hundreds of years, they've had to create it often so that they can maintain their health and stay at their current age. Why don't they have muscle memory? Why can't they create this from scratch? I don't understand. That bothered me the entire book. Why don't these people know how to make this just based off of having made it so many times? I felt like that was a huge flaw and wasn't really accurate. Like, that really bothered me. Because even if you don't have the book and you don't have the ingredients, you don't have the formula in front of you, you've made this consistently for hundreds of years and you don't have it memorized. Once you read something so many times, you can do it by heart, right? And the fact is, even just muscle memory, sometimes you're like, oh, that goes with that. Like, that happens throughout a span of a regular human's life. So over hundreds of years, they should have definitely been able to make it without instructions. But that's just it's a little my issue. I'm not sure if everyone else would pick up on that or be as bothered by that as I was, but I think it's a big flaw to the book, which actually is why the book will get the grade of a B. I think that the key components are there when creating fantasy. I think that the writing is good. It really draws you in. I think that even though I would like the characters to be more unique, I think that they're compelling. I think that for historical sake, I think that they add depth to the story. I think that the fact that Nicholas Flamel was actually a real person is super super interesting. Also, the villain in this story was also a real person around that time, so they have real life connections. So all of that is really intriguing and creates a very interesting read. So I would say a solid B. Obviously, as I've already said, I immediately picked up the second book, so I am a fan of the series. I'm going to keep reading. Hopefully it just gets better and better. Hopefully Scott becomes stronger as a writer, and maybe he'll throw some twists in there that I hadn't predicted. So that's my hope. I would say, yeah, read the book, check it out. I am a fan, so I would recommend that others check it out as well. If you're into fantasy, or even if you're just looking for a lighter read, I think this is something you may really enjoy. Well, all right, y'all, as always, that's it for me. I am MsMalcolmHughes, one who believes that books are sometimes better than people. And until next time, continue to stay safe and be kind to each other. O dabo. Also, for those of you inquiring, I do still have buttons, my Ms. Malcolm Hughes pins, and the details on how to get those are below.